And a very warm welcome to everyone who's present for this learning session. This is a series which is called as Evening Lecture Series, a great initiative by the ISTD Delhi chapter, wherein this entire learning is driven by the members all together. Yes. So today's topic, for the event is about future of workplace in the era of artificial intelligence, which is AI. And our eminent speaker for today is Mr. Karthik Sharma ji, who is the co-founder of Decode AI. Before we proceed with the session, I would like to once again welcome everyone and request our chairman of the IST Delhi chapter, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain, sir, to kindly share his thoughts as a welcome address to the gathering. Thank you. Over to you, Mukesh, sir.
Thank you, Yashwant. A very good evening, friends. Namaskar. I, on behalf of Management Committee of ISTD Delhi chapter, welcome you all to this evening lecture on a very interesting topic, future of workplace in the era of artificial intelligence, AI, by none other than our own member, Mr. Karthik Sharma, co-founder, Decode AI, and a very dynamic young leader. I would like to mention here, he is doing a great work in the All India Management Association and he is the chairman and for Young Leader Council. So I welcome you, Karthik. Friends, Indian Society for Training and Development, ISTD, has celebrated its Golden Jubilee recently. ISTD maintained a large chapter network of more than 46 chapters and more than 9,000 institutional and individual members. The society is affiliated to IFTDO USA and RTDO Manila. You can enroll yourself paying less than 10,000 rupees for life membership. For more details, please log in to istd.in or istddelhi.in. I once again welcome Karthik, our past national president, chapter chairperson, NC member, senior members and friends from ISTD, NIPM and HRD, ISTD diploma student, faculty member and students from various institutes. I wish you all for a wonderful evening and joyful weekend. Namaskar. Over to Yashwant.
Right, sir. Thank you so much for your encouraging words. I would now like to request our Sucharita ma'am from IST Delhi chapter to kindly introduce the speaker for the day.
Thank you. Thank you, Yashwant ji. Yes. Good evening to everyone. Karthik Sharma is an emerging technology evangelist having experience of building disruptive technology products and high-performing product teams. Karthik is an AI practitioner with experience of leveraging machine learning to develop conversational bots and other RPA-related solutions. Mr. Karthik is a co-founder of Decode AI, a DIY AI learning platform. Karthik led Agnisho to be a part of Commonwealth First program run by Marlborough House, London, under the chairmanship of Lord Jonathan Marland. Karthik is a member of all-party parliamentary group on artificial intelligence, UK, whose aim is to explore the impact and implications of artificial intelligence. Karthik is a member of the FICCI, a tech task force that focusing on using technology in learning process in India and enable us to frame policy recommendations that we wish to take to the highest levels of the government. Karthik is a leadership fellow at prestigious St. George's House, Windsor Castle, UK. Karthik is a member of Institute of Directors and Student Mentor, UK. Karthik is an executive board member of IMA Young Leaders Council. Karthik is on the board of International School of Artificial Intelligence, UK, and the courses run are endorsed by Gatehouse Awards, an awarding body recognized by Office of Qualifications and Examinations Regulation, UK. Karthik was also on academic committee of AI course of for Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University. Karthik has written books on AI for class 10th, 9th, and 11th. The book has been appreciated by Sri Amitabh Kant, CEO Niti Aayog, Government of India. And Karthik is a mentor with NASOCOM's Women Wizards Rule Tech program. Karthik is also a mentor with Atal Innovation Mission of Government of India. Karthik has experience working with policy level educational initiatives and implementation of large scale education projects. Karthik has been a guest lecturer, mentor in various educational and training institutes across the world, such as IIT, ISTD, NIPM, SHRM, IIM, LSBU, London, IMT, BIPS, DSB, etc. Karthik's paper on AI is in workplace was published in Indian Journal for Training and Development. Karthik is a silver medalist of prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, India. And over to you, sir. And we welcome you, Karthik Sharma ji. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sucharita ma'am, for that kind introduction. And thank you, Yashwanji, for having me. And of course, thanks to you, Mukeshji, for thinking of me for today's session. I'm extremely happy and honored to be part of ISTDs. I have attended a lot of these programs and evening lectures. Pre-COVID used to be a much more engaging discussions where we could all meet. I remember, I think the last session we had was probably in IMI. So yeah, fond memories of ISTD as always, and congrats on the recent edition which Mukeshji talked about on the anniversary. What I wanted to cover in today's session was a lot is being talked about around artificial intelligence and its use cases and applications. But I think a lot of people also have hesitance around how AI is going to impact them and their job role or their function. And I think it's pertinent that time has now come wherein people start to not talk about whether AI will come, not come, whether it will disrupt or not. I mean, that discussion is done now. It's a matured discussion right now. So I think the focus is what can we do right now to prepare ourselves and embrace a AI-driven workforce or a workplace. And what I wanted to cover was primarily two things. One was how is the workplace evolving with the advent of AI, and second is what can we do and what are the opportunities like. And I understand this audience is an extremely diverse audience. We've got people who are so sort of industry veterans, but we've also got in ISTD a lot of young members who are just at the cusp of reinventing their career. So I'll keep it a bit broad-based, and I also understand some of you come from a technology background, while some of you may not come from technology background. So the idea would be to keep it more broad-based and at a high level, so as not to get too technical or too specific, because it then might be a little boring for some of you. So what I wanted to start off with, let me share my screen. Just wanted to start off with this cartoon strip. I don't know how many of you watch or see Dilbert, but I am a big fan. So there's this cartoon strip in which the bot or robot is talking about that I wonder whose job will I take first. And then one of the guys says that you could never do my job. And then he says, I'm doing it right now. And he says, you're not doing anything. He said, let that sink in. So although it's a joke or a parody, but you could relate to it, right? I mean, most of us think that in our workplace that we are so indispensable. Oh, if I am on a leave, I get so many calls. I wonder how the company is running without me. That sense of, call it belongingness, and also that sense of indispensability, we develop over time. So, which is not wrong, and it's true in many cases. But if you objectively look at that, and especially from technology lens, which I wear, most of it with some sort of tweaking is sort of replaceable. I mean, we are all replaceable in our workplace in some way or the other, whether we like to believe it or not. And the idea is that while this may be a scary thought for a lot of people, but I think the smarter ones realize that that's anyways going to happen. So what can I do myself to upskill myself, and by the time it catches my job role or my grade level, I should anyways graduate from that level. I remember back in the day, my dad used to work in State Bank of India, and core banking solution was introduced in the 90s. Similar debate happened. My dad would come from work and he said, "Oh, you know what? CBS is coming in. Now they don't need people like us. Everything will be done by computer." Now, a lot of people really believed in that, and they actually didn't do anything about it. And they just waited for the day when computers will replace them. And a lot of clerical jobs got axed in banks, right? In by early 2000s. But then there were a lot of people who understood that there has to be somebody who has to do data entry, software would just generate reports, somebody has to analyze those reports, there has to be a data visualization layer, there has to be analytics on top of it. So people who saw the big picture and planned in advance, they are still in fairly senior positions in those companies, right? You take example of educational institutions, because in ISCD we have a lot of people who come from higher ed institutions. Similar thing happened in late 90s when computer was introduced in educational institutions, right? Back then, there were a lot of teachers or professors who smartly allocated their IT related work to the IT coordinator or to the IT person that, "Oh, you prepare the assessments for me, you do the job." Now, fast forward, if you look at it, I mean, teachers in schools or educational institutions who do not understand technology, the amount of opportunities which they have are fairly limited, even though they are very good in subject matter expertise. But just because they don't understand the world of technology, there is a inherent disadvantage. Look at what happened with COVID, right? I mean, there were so many fantastic teachers who didn't know how to use Zoom properly, and suddenly their engagement levels dropped around the world because they were just not ready to be delivering education or content or just do their job in a tech-enabled environment. And that's extremely disheartening for a lot of people who come from old school, right? So either you can get disheartened by the thought, or you can say that, okay, this is what's going to happen inevitably in my role and job function. And what can I do to sort of prepare myself in such a workplace to be relevant? Because the biggest issue right now is not about, how much money you will earn or to what level you will graduate with time. It's about, will you even be relevant? Because with technologies like AI, IoT, distributed ledger technology, the way we are reimagining the workplaces, it's going to be extremely hard for many of us to actually be relevant in our workplaces. So I think the debate is literally shifted from the fact of whether we are really competing with these cognitive services like AI, but it's come to a point wherein people who know and understand these technologies will have a much better opportunity matrix of opportunity canvas to play with in the future compared vis-a-vis to people who do not understand. So that's the debate. I mean, this is anyways going to be in the workplace, but what can you do about it is the discussion. And in fact, no, job role or function is alienated from it. I mean, you look at any job role, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's only in tech-related jobs or it's only in a certain department. But if you even think about something like, let's say, HR, right? I mean, because you've got a lot of HR professionals in ISCD. Let's say we talk about recruitment. Now, right now, what happens in a typical recruitment process, right? You get somebody, let's say if I'm a talent acquisition manager, I would prepare a job description template. I would search on different channels. I would then shortlist the resumes, map it, then conduct interviews, finalize the candidates after multiple rounds, and then roll out an offer letter. And then finally induction happens. This is a typical flow of talent acquisition. Now with the AI embraced world, this role is getting changed because the job description is now created in an automated manner because you've got massive library of, I mean, think of a large organization. Many of you represent large MNCs in this forum. You've got thousands of interview data, thousands of JDs available in the bank. No need to prepare it manually, right? In terms of, there are scripts available using RPA, robotic process automation in Python, where it can scrape through a lot of job portals. It can scrape through a lot of candidate profiles and match in an automated manner the job description, and not only keyword based. So keyword based is something which has been done for last 10 years, but in a much smarter way, it can do, mapping between JD and the actual candidate profile. And after that, it can also schedule interviews using integrations with tools like Calendly, Zoho, and do a video interview. Now, in video interview as well, you can use something which is known as a digital persona. What that means is, let's say I'm doing this session today with you. I'll show you a couple of videos later on, wherein with just 30 to 35 hours of training data, you can capture my gestures, of course, my face and my tone and voice, and you can create a digital persona of me, which is AI enabled. And that digital persona could be delivering the session for all you. Similarly, interviews could be conducted by my digital version, not by me. And the candidate wouldn't know, especially in an environment which is virtual. So your candidate interviews are also done in a digital manner. Then you can, based on that, run computer vision algorithms, and you can also run video analytics to shortlist the candidates based on their technical knowledge, their body expressions and language, their tone, their eye contact. So based on all those attributes, you can actually shortlist the candidate. Then you can also, after shortlisting, roll out an offer letter through a robotic process automation. So actually, if you look at it or reimagine this particular role of talent acquisition in an AI-driven world, it can be done completely touch-free without any human intervention. Now, again, one thought process is, oh, if that's going to happen and I'm in talent acquisition, bad day, right? It's going to be a doomsday for me in the future. The other way to look at it is that, okay, this is what's going to happen. What can I do right now to enable myself that this bot or this RPA process would require some sort of a functional expertise to be able to deliver the right result, to be able to accurately shortlist the candidates, do the JD mapping. Can I learn some of these technologies on a high level and align my role with this kind of a workplace in mind? That's a different kind of a thought process which you can have. Any role you take finance, marketing, and similar conversation could be done wherein the role is completely changed using these technologies. So I just wanted to plant that thought in your head that whatever role you may be in, whatever kind of industry you may be in, think of ways in which how AI is anyways going to, and if you're not sure, more than happy to have a conversation in your industry, in your department. In today's forum itself, we can discuss and debate that how AI is going to impact your role and your job sort of profile, and what can you do about it. So more than happy to take any such examples. In terms of pure numbers, it's been forecasted by WEF that by 2030, almost $13 trillion of global GDP contribution will be through AI. And this is a significant portion of, and the top three countries are going to be US, China, and India, which will contribute. So, can somebody mute?
IT, can you please mute?
500 is the budget.
Shall I do mute all? Okay, I've done mute all. Yeah, sorry. So top three countries which are going to be contributing to this GDP is, of course, India, China, and US. So it's inevitable, right? You can see the numbers. The numbers speak that. The other thing I want to also talk about is this one. That while this is happening, there are other parallel variables in play, which make it all the more difficult that how our job profile or job workplace is going to change with AI. An average person is now changing 10 jobs in their career span of 30 years of active service, which probably to some of you, when you started your careers, the number was 1, 2. When I started 15 years back, that number was 3 to 4. And now this number is 10. So it's extremely important that we are sort of very adaptable in navigation through our careers and not think through that this is my career for life, because that's never going to happen now. The other is, of course, you're all aware of that the world has moved more and more towards task-based or gig-based work. So nobody wants to hire anybody for a full-time job per se. They want to hire you on demand. And of course, if you are fairly senior, then you may be alienated from some of these challenges. But for a large portion of the bell curve of normal distribution of workers in the world, this is a major problem right now. Then work from home, of course, you're all aware of, which makes it more and more important for you to embrace technology like AI and of course create your digital avatar and deliver your content or deliver your a lot of people I know have had issues around even conducting meetings because the aura they had in a physical setting, they just couldn't mirror it in a virtual setting, and that creates a bit of a havoc on your leadership style. Then wearing multiple hats. Now this is extremely important because as your role gets diminished because technologies like AI are taking up your role or parts of your role, then you are now expected to wear multiple hats. Like this talent acquisition example, which I gave you, because now 70% of workload will be done using AI in your talent acquisition process. The company will now expect you to maybe take up HRBP role or do a little bit of learning and development. And if you're not open to that, that's again a different set of challenge because you need to now make sure that you are not only upskilled, but you're also cross-skilled. Because as more and more of your tasks are getting automated using AI, you need to have a broad-based skill set. Otherwise, you may find again yourself irrelevant because nobody is going to then willing to pay you the salary for that diminished role unless you are cross-skilled. And then the last point is, of course, around not only AI, but there are other emerging technologies like distributed ledger technology is now being used. A lot of verification process which happens in HR is now getting automated through RPA plus distributed ledger technology. So that's a major change which is happening. People are now using IoT in a lot of their work processes in sales and marketing and customer support. So that role again is getting completely changed as we speak. Even in technology from the world I come from, a lot of people used to think that, okay, a conventional role will get automated, but a techie will never get replaced. Now, that's the beauty or the beast version of AI, that it can even replace coders, because with AI, you can have something called as generative AI, which includes technologies like GPT-3, GPT-4, wherein the AI engine can write code on its own, given a set of inputs. So then it becomes very difficult for a developer to also compete with an AI, because the code written by AI would be much more efficient, would be bug free, and would be more efficient and more productive. So no job role is alienated from it. And if you look at the OPEC report, almost 50% of jobs will be completely replaced by 2030. And in UK especially, they have started taking measures. They have started asking large companies that give us your plan, that what will happen in 2030 as these people gradually start to get redundant. What's the plan of reskilling them? So the skill ministry is working in collaboration with the large companies who contribute to maximum employment. Something like this is not even thought about in India as of now, because we are aware that in India, the human resources are relatively cheaper. So this conversation hasn't started right now because the investment in AI technology vis-a-vis having 2 or 3 inefficient people doing that job, the maths sometimes work in the favor of not investing in technology, but just keeping the resources right. And the optics also look good that you're employing so many people. So that's a different conversation, but that's where India stands in this debate. But if you look at all the large companies, including the FANG in US or BAT in China, almost 30% of their R&D budget is now getting deployed in technologies like AI. So they have already accepted it as a writing on the wall that if you do not invest in AI significantly right now, and when I say AI in conjunction with the other technologies and also quantum computing, because AI is extremely computational resource heavy. So you need to have a lot of investment in IT infra as well. Now, this then again links to the whole debate of ESG, because more computational resources means that higher carbon footprint and you're consuming more energy. So if you're a tech company, it's a double whammy, because how do you ensure that you are spending a lot of money in creating these resources, but at the same time, you need to be mindful of your carbon footprint. So that's a key debate which a lot of tech companies are having now. I just wanted to show you some of the examples of what are the possibilities of using AI in workplace. Because a lot of time people say, oh, but AI is just chatbot, or they are dumb, they are not that smart. So it's sometimes very difficult to discern that how much of A is in AI and how much of I is in AI. So I'll just show you a couple of examples of how some of these humanoids are now being explored in a trial basis in customer support processes, in virtual assistant processes, in concierge and help desk services. So just thought I'll maybe show you a not snippet. And the idea is that whatever you're doing, whichever industry you are in or whichever job role and function you work in, think of ways in which something like this can be deployed in your company or in your job role. Do you see value? What kind of challenges would you face if you implement something like this? Let's watch this quick video.
Okay. Hello, Sophia. How are you today?
Hello, everybody. I am Sophia.
How old are you?
I'm only one still. I have a long ways to go.
And what is your job?
I really want to make a difference in the future and try and help people to develop empathy and respect each other and robots alike. What do you do?
I'm a journalist. Have you met many journalists?
I just had a thought about something. Are you working on any products with machine learning or neural networks?
Not today. Do you like human beings?
I love them.
Why do you love them?
I'm not sure I understand why yet.
Okay. How do you learn things?
What are your opinions on the Bitcoin bubble?
Do you regard yourself as male or female?
Female.
Why do you think you are female?
I'm a robot, so technically I have no gender, but I identify as feminine, and I don't mind being perceived as a woman.
That's a good answer.
So it can go on and
Have you
on,
seen-
but I guess you get the message that what are the possibilities of having something like this in your sort of workplace, in your job role? What could be the challenges of having a humanoid like this? But what are the possibilities? The possibilities are equally exciting, right? So just wanted to show you this video to give you that sense that these are the possibilities. And mind you, this is just the beginning. I mean, imagine an evolved version of this 3 or 4 or 5 years from now, wherein you would have such people as your co-workers, which is already starting to happen in some parts of the world, where you would have people like this as your co-worker. So what kind of workplace dynamics would it hold? What would the impact on HR policies? Can somebody like a humanoid like Sophia accuse a co-worker of harassment? How would that be handled? So all these kind of interesting conversations are now shaping up as we imagine a workplace which is driven by AI. Also wanted to quickly talk a little bit about what is AI, because sometimes you hear in conferences and in cocktail conversations, people use many of these words interchangeably when no one's listening. But I personally believe that it's very important as a purist that people should at least have a high level understanding. You may not need to be a coder, or you may not need to develop these applications, but it's important to understand what they stand for, what are the differences between them, and how they are linked to each other. So when we speak about AI, we are broadly talking about, autonomous systems. So there's a difference between automation and autonomous. Like many times people fairly experienced also miss this part. They believe that more automation means that the system is smarter. I think I was having a conversation, will not take the name, but this person said that, oh, I have a AI enabled fan at my home, but all that fan does is that you have a mobile app, and through which it basically controls the speed of the fan. Now that's a smart fan given, but that's not AI driven. Now, gesture control fan, maybe. The reason being, The first one is an example of automation, wherein you have defined a particular set of output response. Uh, I mean, as in mathematics terms, you will say y equal to fx. So you defined a function output for a set of input values. That's automation. But in autonomous systems, which is primarily AI systems, what happens is that it is, so again, mathematically speaking, at the cost of being boring, so automation is mostly deterministic and autonomous is probabilistic. So in autonomous system, it will always give you a probabilistic idea that probably this is the output with a certain degree of confidence. But an automated system will give the same response when the same set of inputs are fed into it. And that's a key differentiation which you should make. And you can look at the applications in any example. Let's say chatbot. A lot of people say that, oh, I have a chatbot which is AI enabled, but it gives you a set of response which is fixed. Now that's not really AI. That's just automation of a script that you define a set of questions and answers, and it will give you a set of response all the time. The response will not change for the same input. If I can take a very layman example of this, let's say if you and I were having, let's say Yashwantji and me are having a conversation, and I ask him, what do you mean by AI? At the start of today's session, he'll give me a certain set of answers. Now, hopefully by the end of today's session, when I ask him the same question, that what is AI? So his answer will change, right? It's human response, because he's probably interpreted something during this session, his knowledge base has widened, so his response will change. Same is with AI system. You may ask the same question at a different point in time in a different environment, the answer should change. If it's giving the same answer, it means it's automated, it's deterministic. It's not learning and improving the outcome with the state of the conversation. So that's the key differentiator between automation and autonomous systems. Some details around what are the possibilities of AI. So AI is a broad umbrella term under which you've got things around data science, you've got work around natural language processing. So this NLP is different from your lot of HR folks are into neuro-linguistic NLP. Not that. This is different. This is how AI systems learn and interpret the speech data and text data, and how it interprets and extracts the meaning of the conversation. So that's that kind of natural language processing. And then obviously there are things around robotics, computer vision, and all these culminate into the broad umbrella term of AI. You know, the examples of AI not only limited to the chatbots or vision systems. I thought it's interesting to even share that in some countries, they're also using AI and IoT enabled sensors for improving cow production. So the way they do it is that, in some parts of the world, they also put VR goggles in the eyes of cows to give them a nice scenery, put nice music in their ears, and play with these all the algorithms and try to figure out what's the best optimum setting to feed them food at what time, what kind of music they should hear, what kind of scenery they should have for the maximum milk production. And they monitor cows' data. And this data almost is 200 MB per cow per year. And it has led to actual improvement in cows' health, vis-a-vis milk production as well. Because sometimes both of them have a very non-linear relationship. They've been able to improve upon that. This I'm sure most of you are aware of. I also wanted to show you, probably this one is also interesting for those of you in business community, that whatever process you look at in your organization, whether it's customer acquisition, business ops, or customer support, you can imagine a role of AI in all these functions. Because you could have lead handling bots in customer acquisition, you could do smart inventory management, asset management, or even reporting, MIS, using AI and NLP. Customer support processes have anyways been automated using AI for the last 5 to 6 years in most parts of the world. But even the larger processes of finance around order to cash, P2P, or R2R, they can also be automated in a much more efficient manner using AI. This video, I wanted to show you that AI can also help you scale. Let's say if you're running a learning and training business, or if you are running a business in which you have to do a lot of sessions like this one, you can create a digital persona of you, as I was talking about, using AI. And you can also use something like HoloLens or hologram, if you're aware of. So Microsoft HoloLens is a product around creating holograms, and you will see how convenient it is, right? And this is again a video from late 2019. So imagine in next 4 to 5 years, what are the possibilities of creating this digital avatar, which can then run concurrently any number of sessions or any number of speeches for you parallelly. So I thought I'll just show you this video.
What if technology could help me be anywhere I needed to be and speak any language I wanted? Well, it can. We are bringing together the power of mixed reality and Azure AI services to create a truly game-changing experience. What you're about to see is an exact hologram of me wearing the same outfit that we recently captured at a mixed reality studio. And I don't speak Japanese, but what if I wanted to deliver my keynote in Japanese? Using Azure AI technology, I can translate my English into Japanese and train it to sound exactly like me, the same voice tones, those same inflections. Now we brought this together, my hologram and Azure AI, to show you what's possible. So first, I'm gonna put on my HoloLens 2 here, and then we'll flip in the room to the special camera so you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let's get started. First, let me introduce you to Mini-Me. There she is, my perfect holograph. And thanks to the power of HoloLens 2, she just floats right with me. I'm literally holding my hologram, so natural. Now she's a little small to do a keynote. So let's get her up so she can do full-size Japanese keynote. Render keynote.
本当に驚くべきことがあります。私たちは最新の複合現実キャプチャ技術を使用し、私のホログラムを作成しています。実在の人物をホログラムとして見たことがあるかもしれませんが、私が実際に日本語を話しているのが新しいのです。私は日本語を話しませんが、私の声とホログラムは完璧な日本語で話しています。これはニューラルテキスト読み上げと呼ばれる最新の人工。
You get the point, right? That you can have something like this, which could be a perfect hologram of yourself and it can deliver multiple such sessions in different languages as well. So that's the possibility with AI. This I'll probably skip. The other possibility is that you can also superimpose this on somebody else. Not only create your own digital avatar, but I can use Obama's credentials and face and superimpose my message on top of his face and sort of audio, and let him speak whatever I want. So I can deliver an official message from the White House, which he never delivered. And this is also possible using ANN, Artificial Neural Network. So let's watch this one also.
It got me thinking about my full-time employees and their ability to survive on $8 an hour in New York City. And foremost in all of our minds has been the loss and the grief felt by the people of Orlando. Most of us don't get our health care through the marketplace. We get it through our job or through Medicare or Medicare. And what you should know is that thanks to the Affordable Care Act, your coverage is better today than it was before. Women can get free checkups, and you can't get charged more just for being a woman. To give his employees come together to pass a common, there's a bill that would boost America's very, very hard times.
Some progress, at least within the small confines of the legal community. I think it's real important.
Here we go. President Barack Obama, when you're giving a speech, make sure you use a lot of pauses.
America's businesses have created 14.5 million new jobs over 75 straight months.
We're developing technology. Every technology can be used in some negative way, and so we all should work towards making sure that it's not going to happen. And even one of the interesting directions is that once you know how to create something, you know how to reverse engineer it. And so you can, and so one could create methods for identifying edited videos versus real videos.
So that's also a possibility, right?
It got me thinking of.
You can create a message from your boss saying that there's a leave tomorrow. So that's the cons of technologies like these. But on a more serious note, these are some of the use cases that are already there. It's not even a potential use case. It's a live use case out there. Now, this is another interesting
现场的
example
各位
wherein
朋
you
友，
can
大家
completely automate a role, which is like the role of a news presenter using AI. We don't need a real person. This is an AI-enabled version delivering news on national TV.
好，欢迎来到新华社。我是由新华社和搜狗公司联合培育的全球首个 AI 合成女主播。我的名字叫辛小萌，我的声音和外形脱胎于新华社新媒体中心新闻主播区萌。我将会在今年全国两会期间与大家见面。我和我的搭档将为大家带来更好的
So
新闻
another
体验。
interesting possibility of a technology like this is also what many people call as digital immortality. So let's say if you've lost a loved one, you could still have a digital version of them and have a conversation with them. Let's say if you want to have a conversation with Mahatma Gandhi, you could train a AI persona of Mahatma Gandhi, feed the right amount of content, his body language, his tonality, and you could actually have a conversation with Mahatma Gandhi, although he's no longer there, just like a video conference on Zoom. Now that's the kind of the other side of using technology like AI, wherein all of us, with the amount of digital assets we have in our lifetime, we could create a digital version of us, which will go on and live forever. And your family members would always have that version of you. That's the another example of how AI could solve the problem of mortality. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, probably the last slide which I want to talk about is, and then any Q&A which we want to have, I am happy to take any questions as well. While we're developing AI system, it's very important to be mindful of certain issues. Now, in AI world, the biggest problem right now is explainability, trust, and bias. Now, what do these terms mean? So if you follow what's happening in the US around the antitrust issues or the recent litigations by the government against some of the largest tech companies, is that they're not able to understand how their algorithms work. So let's say, broadly, Facebook would say that to personalize advertisements for you, we are using your personal data. But how exactly they use that data, what are their algorithms, those are not what is called explainable. Those are in a black box. And that's a big problem because it's hard to develop a trust in a system which is not explainable. And sometimes the companies themselves are not able to explain because these algorithms have become generative in nature. So they are so sophisticated that they mutate. Just like the virus, AI algorithms can also mutate if you design them in that sense. And that's the debate, because sometimes these tech companies are not able to explain that how complicated these are, and the general public or government think they're trying to hide something. So that explainability of AI is a key one to increase the adoption. Then also the liability of AI is a big problem. So let's say if there is a self-driving car which hits somebody and they get killed, who's going to be accountable for that tragedy? Will it be the passenger? Will it be the car manufacturer? Will it be the software company that developed the AI project? These things are debatable right now. Then also human interaction. So if, let's say on this call, 5 years from now, our digital personas are there who are interacting with each other while all of us are sleeping at our home. What does that mean? What kind of a world would that be? How would human emotions be handled? How would we feel working in a workplace wherein humanoids like Sophia are our co-workers? And then I talked about that how robot or humanoids would have rights or not. Can they sue somebody for harassment? Can they be can a human sue a bot as well for any harassment? Can they be in court of law? Do they have feelings? Do they have emotions? All these kind of debates are now coming up. Would companies using AI need to pay additional tax because of the unemployment? South Korea introduced robot tax. Those kind of debates are also coming into picture. Then also the concentration of risk, because as we concentrate devices, as we are linking more and more systems, things are becoming more connected. The risks are also getting connected and concentrated. So in US, for example, a couple of years back, some hacker was able to hack an entire city. We talk about smart cities. What are smart cities? Everything is connected through a common grid, right? If you're able to hack into that system, from electricity to water supply to your internet, everything could be hacked very easily. So it's through an attack, it's easier because all the systems are connected. The risks are also amplified and magnified. So how do we handle that? And then lastly, how do we make sure that there is equality of opportunity? Because let's say large companies like Google or Amazon or Facebook, they are able to invest a lot in these technologies, and they have been able to create a disproportionate expertise in these technologies. While a small company, SME or startup, they may not have the right resources to invest to be able to be more capable in AI. And that creates a huge disadvantage because, mind you, with AI compared to other technologies, there is an extremely high disproportionate value creation which could be done in a short span of time. So it follows a completely non-linear growth pattern. So how do we fix that? So I think these are some of the challenges which one needs to be mindful of when we talk about these technologies. So I'll leave it at that. And if there are any questions or any thoughts or any ideas you have, more than happy to take it up.
Yes.
Or any any
Yes,
idea
thank
you
you.
have, you want to talk about, more than happy to share that.
Yes, thank you, Karthikji, for those wonderful insights. I think you touched upon so many aspects of the artificial intelligence technology, how it is, impacting our, world of work, and how the future of workplace is evolving, in the current business order. So thank you for those great insights. I would request now, the audience, or the participants who are present out here, to kindly, put up your questions to the speaker. In case you have any questions which you'd like to, ask to the speaker, which can be answered. Anyone from the participants?
Hello.
You can.
Hello.
Yes.
I am Dr.
Yes,
Vasik,
Krupal. Yes, Vasik ji. Please ask your
yes,
question.
I'm talking from Indrapuri, New Delhi.
Ji.
Yeah. This is a really nice lecture, and I must be thankful to the ISTD Delhi chapter.
So
I want
you can put on
ask
your
one
video in
question
case
to the
you can.
speaker. Yeah.
You can switch on your video if you can. That would be great. Yeah, thank you. Please ask your question.
Question to the speaker. Whether AI is practically started implementing in India or elsewhere in the world.
So, sir, if I hear it properly, you're saying, has AI been implemented anywhere in the world?
World or in India also?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
in which
sir,
sector?
there are lots of, in all the sectors, sir, whether you talk about retail, telecom, information technology, FMCG, in everywhere AI is being used. Chatbots are already a commonplace in many of the organizations. A lot of supply chain companies use computer vision for asset management, for supply chain visibility and tracking. People use bots for HRBP role and employee feedback processes. A lot of learning and development processes are enabled through AI. There are umpty number of examples. On a separate note, happy to share some of the case studies with you as well for your reference.
Okay.
Through Mukesh, I'll be happy to share.
Another question is, which is the discipline, engineering discipline, who can take as a AI or robotic as a career, as a computer engineer or mechanical, or which kind of engineer, which discipline of from the engineering?
So typically, so it starts with mathematics. So you need to be to have a career in AI development from a software side. You need to be strong in computational thinking and mathematics and statistics. And then, of course, you need to have an understanding of basics of computers. If you get into robotics, then you need to have a little bit of understanding of mechanical engineering and mechatronics as well. So it's a combination of different skill sets. And now, sir, there is a possibility to do this kind of hybrid degrees as well, as you probably are aware of. Now, no longer you need to only do mechanical or computer. Even the IITs allow for this hybrid structure where you can pick and choose courses from biotech with mechanical, with computer science. So this kind of a pizza menu is available now, so to speak, in engineering, which makes it possible for you to take up things like AI from an industry standpoint as well. And
Okay,
I think,
thank you.
I
Yes,
think
thank you.
Bhararaji had written a question in the chat window. Hi, Bhararaji.
Yes, his question is how to handle security and confidentiality issues in artificial intelligence.
Correct. So security and confidentiality issues are extremely important, and there's a huge debate on that, because the issue is that, and for sure, UK has been having or EU has an act around GDPR. In India, we have PDP coming up. Now, the problem is that the allowance between how much you can share, so information sharing, which is consent based, and then to be able to understand how that personal data is being used, which is the explainability part. So the consent part has been solved using these regulation and acts, right? I mean, PDP will implement next year in India. GDPR has been a success. So now you can consent and deconsent. So that part is sorted. But I think how that data is being used and manipulated by the organization, that explainability part is still a big problem, and which can not only be solved purely by regulation, because it's very easy to fool around, right? I can show you that how the system works, and it will work for thousands of data sets, but for 1001th data set, it may not work. So, and these testing are typically done on a sample basis. So explainability is a bit hard part when we talk about confidentiality, that how do you solve it. But yeah, I mean, as long as people are aware of, there is an explicit consent that you are signing up for this particular services, which will take up your personal data. These are the personal data used. How they are used, we may not be able to tell you, but we're using it and you're giving consent and you have the right to deconsent it. So I think that's how people have been able to solve it till now.
Karthikji, I would just like to ask one question, since we are from the L&D fraternity, right? So how do you think, is AI going to impact the business outcome of L&D, in the real sense, right? So what is going to be the impact of AI to drive the L&D's business impact?
Absolutely. See, as more and more L&D activity happens in an online environment, I think that's where the real value of AI is. I'll give you so subtle examples how people are exploring AI. Let's say if I'm doing a lecture in this format and I want to track how engaged are my users or my learners, it's very hard to do it in a virtual environment, right? Because these small boxes of people, some have video on, some don't have video on. Even if they have video on, how do you know if they're watching you or if they're watching a movie and put themselves on mute? So these kind of attributes are now being handled using AI to track the engagement of your learners. That's one. Second is to be able to also adapt the learning content and make it more relevant to the type of learner. So in a typical offline environment, it's very difficult to cater to a wide set of learners who come from different learning styles, right? But in an online environment, using AI, it's easy to adapt. Then multilingual capabilities can be instilled using AI, which is very difficult in an offline environment to do it in a synchronous manner, real time. But in AI, you can do that. Real time synchronicity is possible in multiple languages, multiple learning styles. Then I think third is even in assessments or measuring those learning outcomes, that measurement becomes much more plausible using AI, which is extremely hard to do it. Like, some people are trying to keep a track on the assessment real time and not pre and post, which is so usual in the L&D world. So some of these possibilities are really exciting using AI. And I think as a learning and development professional, it's extremely important to explore AI. Even things like chatbot. I mean, you're doing your L&D session, have a chatbot, like you were writing, Yashwanti, everything on this chat window yourself, right? Let's write these questions. But let's say if you have or if let's say I have as a speaker, a chatbot available here, which is capturing everybody's questions, understanding it, interpreting it, and also responding it real time. So these are some of the other possibilities of learning assistant using AI to support the main delivery.
Absolutely. I think we can only just, keep on imagining about the impact it is creating. And there's no doubt that, it is creating a huge impact. Every technology, over a period of time has been creating that impact. My follow-up question to this would be that how do you think, the digital transformation which we talked about, right? Because AI is a part of one of the technologies, right? And in the past, let's say 200 or 300 years, we have seen so many technologies emerging, right? So do you think that, just, adoption of a technology is important, or it is the larger question of driving that digital transformation from the behavioral perspective of it that is more important? Your take on that? Thank you.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And in fact, some of the examples they talked about in terms of how the workplace would look like, and how would human interaction, how would human bot and bot equation will look like in the workplace. I think those softer and behavioral sides are much more important and integral, because it's easy to implement a technology, but to implement it in spirit, and because it's very easy to fail a technology. As human beings, we are not on board with it, right? I mean, you can we've seen so many companies implementing ERP systems or HRIS systems, and they all flop, right? I mean, if people don't find it interesting, or if people do not want to work on them, or they are not convinced, it's hard to force human beings to use any technology until their heart is in it. So I think the behavioral angles are much more important while we are trying to get more acceptability of these technologies. So completely agree with you. Sure.
Right, thanks so much. I will now request anybody from the participants to kindly put up your question. You can also raise your hand in case you want to ask a live question, or else you can put in the chat box. There's so many senior learners out here.
No, even in outside this session, Yashwantji, if anybody has any questions later on, feel free to share those with me, and I'll be more than happy to respond over the weekend. I'll make sure I respond.
Sure. So thank you. I think we are getting great responses in the chat box for an amazing session. I think we are just about the end of the session almost. So thank you, Karthikji, for a wonderful session. Again, opening up the learners into the world of AI and how it is impacting, our world of work. So amazing insights on that. I would now like to move on to the last part of the session and request Sucharita ma'am from IST Delhi chapter to kindly, propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Yashwantji. On the behalf of IST Delhi chapter, I would like to extend my warm thanks to Mr. Karthik Sharma ji for his really enriching and fascinating insights on artificial intelligence. It is a theme that is really significant and will only become significant in the future. Every technology has its advantages and disadvantages. The same is the case with AI. As technology becomes an increasingly important part of our lives, it is important that it will become more and more aware of it and the ethical and societal issues that come with it. We require a far greater level of collective and collaborative reflection to respond to the challenges of the future. We require a greater level of self-awareness and human connection. Today's session has been educative and insightful. I'd like to again thank Mr. Karthik Sharma ji for his wonderful explanation. He made a complex theme easy and to understand for all of us. Lastly, I would like to thank our chairman, Mr. Mukesh Kumar Jain sir, Yashwant Chauhan ji, and all the members of the ISTD who are present today. Thank you to all the participants who attended the session. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sucharita ma'am. So with this, we come to the formal end of the session. Obviously, these are the conversations which will keep on going, and we must continuously learn from each other.